Morning, ladies and gentlemen. To PIRB and IOPSA who make these sessions possible, thank you very much. We undervalue their support, and we need to lean on especially IOPSA's support. First of all, I'm going to talk about business or busy mess. Are you in business or do you have a busy mess? So what qualifies me to talk about business or busy mess? I'm just a plumber, like all of you out there. I'm just a plumber. I operate in the Stellenbosch Somerset West region. I've come through the School of Hard Knocks, but I've also learned a lot about business in a roundabout way. And I'm going to give you what works for me and what I've found is very important, because being a plumber is just one of the aspects of running a business. So let me just give you a bit of an intro to my background in business, and we'll take it from there. In 1983, beginning of 83, I started my plumbing apprenticeship with Ofcon Construction, which was a Cape Town-based company, although I lived in Pretoria, and they had a plumbing business called Mark Plumbing. About halfway through my apprenticeship, Ofcon Construction decided that Mark Plumbing was not a viable business for them anymore, and they decided to close it down. So here's a huge big company closing down one of their subsidiaries because it was not financially viable anymore. Because I was an apprentice, they had to find me alternative work, and I joined what was then in Pretoria as well, a big business, Stocks and Stocks, also a massive big construction company. And they had a division called Kellard Plumbing, which I joined. My last job as an apprentice was working on what is today the Reserve Bank in Pretoria. I know every step from the basement to the top intimately. I've carried many a basin, urinal, toilet, pipes up those stairs right to the top. My apprentice was a very hard apprentice. I had unforgiving foremen, but what I know today is thanks to them. When in those days, your 4-year apprenticeship, after 3 years, if you felt you were ready to do your trade test, you could do it. After 3 years, went and did my trade test at Olifantsfontein, and I passed first time round. And a couple of months later, I joined a builder in his building business, operating the plumbing division. The partnership was a handshake. I was completely ignorant, naive, had no clue about business whatsoever. So I left everything to the running of him. My biggest mistake I made was I signed surety for a plumbing supply company, and 6 or 8 months later, when I looked again, I was told that we owed money and accounts on hold. I said that was impossible, and cut a long story short, the partner, so-called partner, had bought sand, cement, brick, stone, everything to do with building except plumbing. And he said, well, you signed surety, it's your problem, not mine. So I had to owe 35,000 Rand at a very young age. Just going into business, it was difficult. I loaned the money from my parents, they paid it off, and I paid them back every month, including interest. All my mates worked for a company called Panasonic back in the day, and I then joined them because it was a quick way of getting the money that I owed back. And I joined them from plumbing. I became a Technics Hi-Fi specialist, from plumbing to electronics. I had to do crash courses in electronics and learn a whole new game that was completely foreign to me, including, and one must realize that in corporate businesses, the bottom line is figures. You either attain those figures or they find someone else to do it. So along came budgeting, forecasts, And I learned that very quickly. And I suddenly realized what was missing from my first stint as a plumber is that I had no knowledge about forecasts, budgets, profit and loss. I had no clue about any of that. So that taught me. The one thing I learned very quickly was that if my budget was X amount, I broke it down into monthly, weekly, and even daily. In our game, turnover is one thing, but profit is what we look at in plumbing. We need to know what profit we are making. So I used to phone the sales desk on a Monday at 9 o'clock every day to find out what turnover I did yesterday, and I would phone them at lunchtime, and I'd phone them at the end of the day again. So I knew every day during the day exactly where I was according to my budget. If my budget for the day was 10,000 Rand and I ended on 15,000 Rand, that's great. I had 5,000 that I banked. If I finished on 5,000, then I had a problem because the next day wasn't 10,000, it was now 15,000. So I learned very quickly all about budgeting and forecasts and that. Then in the end of 93, beginning of 94, I was headhunted and I joined Vodacom. While I was at Panasonic, I went from salesman to sales manager KwaZulu-Natal. I was based in the Panasonic head of a regional office up in Pinetown, and I spent 2 wonderful years there. And then, as I said, I got headhunted and I joined Vodacom before inception, before cellular even started, and I was transferred back to Cape Town to set up the dealer network for Vodacom. I spent another 9 years at Vodacom, but all this time I was itching to get back into plumbing because plumbing is what I wanted to do. I was not a corporate person, but in my 18 or so years that I spent at in the corporate world, I learned everything about business, about profit and loss, about budgeting, forecasting, all of that. I went on many business courses, finance courses, management courses, all of that. And that is what is lacking in our business as plumbers. We go out there, we do our trade test, and off we go. We start working for ourselves. And along the way, we fumble and tumble to understand business about budgeting, money, profit, loss, what is profit, what is loss, etc. And that is fundamentally missing. So if I can give anybody advice, try and do an online business course or a basic accounting course or something. I was lucky that at school I did accounting for maths, for matric. So I had a bit of a background. I knew what debit and credit and profit and loss and assets and current assets and liabilities, all that. I knew a bit about that, but not enough. Then when I finished, I then left Vodacom and I started a plumbing company. And that went very well. I started subcontracting for WBHO, which, as you all know, is a massive big company, and I did a lot of work for them down here in the Western Cape. But I found myself burning out. I was a one-man band and we were working flat out. I'd sometimes leave home on a Wednesday morning and get home on a Thursday afternoon and just work for 48 hours straight. It took its toll. I then sold that business and I bought a plumbing supply store, a franchise. And then in 2008, when the financial crash came, that just killed me as well. Overnight, from one night going to bed to the next morning waking up and realizing that 60% of my business was gone, finished because of the crash. Now, we also know that back in the day, or anytime there's a downturn in the economy, normally a couple of months and then it goes up again. we didn't know in 2008 about what was happening. So I gave that franchise up, handed it back, took a bit of a bath there, but the main thing is I never owed anybody any money. I walked away, I never made money, and I never lost money. I then went back into plumbing again. So that was my third, before that, I then joined a company called Lister Petter. Any of you know those old Lister diesel engines? I was the business development manager, sales manager, marketing manager for Sub-Sahara Africa. So I traveled extensively throughout Sub-Sahara Africa. You name it, I've been to all those countries, a lot of them. And I spent a lot of time in there setting up proper distribution dealers and so on. Then the company went into administration. Guess what? I went back into plumbing, and it took me a long time to learn about business and understand business. And I think today I'm reaping the benefits of understanding what I learned in the corporate world, which came free of charge. So I'm a plumber just like you guys, and I see you guys out there, and I know it's not easy. It's tough. It's a rough environment, but I promise you that you can make it a lot easier for yourself. I am very fortunate that I managed to get a lot of my info and knowledge from the plumbing, from the corporate world. Now, when you start a business, you must remember that in the corporate world, you have all these different divisions and you have heads of every department. When you start your plumbing business, you're either going to go into maintenance or construction, or you're going to do both, one or the two. But before I get into that, I want you guys to think about, why did you become a plumber? You could have been chosen any career in the world. There's millions of careers out there. Why did you choose plumbing? Why did you become a plumber? And I would like you to write that on the right-hand side in the questions tab. Just type your answer, because at the end, Kareem is going to read out a few. I'm very interested to know what made you become a plumber. And I'm a lot older than probably a lot of you, so I'm quite interested to see what the youngsters, what is the attraction to becoming a plumber? I'm very interested to know that answer. So when you go into a plumbing business, as I say, you're going to go into maintenance, construction, or both, or whatever. But there, you need to know how to do your quotes properly. You know how to quote properly. You need to know what it costs you in your business. So you start a plumbing business and you go out there working, but yet you don't even know what it costs you to travel 1 kilometer in your van, what that costs you, what that costs your van, your running costs of your van. You don't even know that. You don't even know how to calculate your labor rate properly. So straight away, doing your plumbing work, you're already on the back foot, because you don't even know what it costs you. Now you have a van full of fittings. You don't even know at any given point what is in those vans. And let me tell you, if you take your material and you take your equipment and add it up, there is a lot of money, 50, 60, 70, 100,000 Rand, depending on what equipment you got. You could have 200,000 Rand in one van. You go and do a job, and you know somewhere in your van, you've got 3 of something or 1 of something, or you think you have, and now you can't find it because your van's a mess. You have no idea where it is. You don't even have a stock sheet for your van. Build up a stock sheet. And know what you have, but you don't have that. And remember, in the corporate world, you've got a manager, a whole department that deals with stock. You don't have to worry about it, but you're in your own business, so you better know what's going on in your van. Otherwise, it's going to cost you money. And then vehicles. You become a logistics manager as well. You can't have a vehicle and you don't know when it's going to be for service, or you know something's wrong with it, but you're not going to have it fixed. You need to have it up and running all the time. And if it breaks down, you better hire a new van, because you can't phone your customers and say, oh, sorry, I can't make it today. My van is broken down. So I'll see when it's fixed, and then I'll phone you again. You can't do that, because you're going to lose that customer. So now you become a logistics manager as well. And then human resources. I had a chap that worked for me, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I was paying him above average salaries. I gave him lots of things. His house, his shack burnt down. I bought him all the equipment, everything to build a new shack in that. Unfortunately, he started drinking, and I had to let him go. He went to the CCMA, and I had to pay him. Cost me a lot of money, and that's because my ignorance of the labor law. I had no idea about the labor law. You know, in this country, guys, it's easy to hire, but to fire is another thing. And here, IOPSA can help you. IOPSA have a lawyer that I think it's your first hour of consultation is free. Make use of it. I never had that back in the day. We never had that. We were on our own. You start a company, you were on your own. Today you have IOPSA. You've got access to a lawyer. Occupational health and safety. You can't just send a guy up the side of a building and hope that nothing happens. Here again, IOPSA can help you. You have direct access to Chris. Anything you want to know, he can help you. That's a benefit of IOPSA. Back in the day, we never had that. And then your SANS regulations, which is probably the most important part of your business. In fact, I'd say it is your most important part of your business. How can you go and do work and you don't even know whether you're doing it right or wrong? It's like Ferrari building a car and putting it on the road, and they don't even know that they built it according to the specs and regulations. Can you imagine the consequences to Ferrari for bringing out a car that does not comply? Guys, SANS regulations is there for a reason, so that at night when you finished your job, you put your head down and you can go to sleep. I sleep well at night because I know that when I do my work, I do it properly. I don't tata my chance. Don't go there and think that that pipe running from that end to that end is fine. There may be a lot of obstacles in there, but because you don't have your regulations, guys, not knowing your regulations or working according to the regulations can cost you everything that you've built up in your business. It can cost you your business. It can cost you your pension fund, because you're going to have to pay out. It can even cost you your marriage. It can break everything down. And don't ever say, oh, it won't happen to me. I've been doing it for 25 years. It's not going to happen to me. Remember, there's another saying, one day is one day. Be careful of that, one day is one day. And then PIRB. I don't think people actually appreciate the value that PIRB have, because it goes with the SANS regulations. If you do your work properly, you're not going to have, and you do your COCs. Remember, if you're a PIRB registered plumber, you have to give a COC out, including materials, around the 1,500 Rand. Now, if everybody issues their COCs according to the SANS regulations, imagine you're not going to have to go back to do your work again. It's not going to cost you money. You're going to save money. Guys, we've got to make profit, especially in this time. My business has never been busier since March till now. I have never been busier. I don't know, I know why, but you need to know your SANS regulations. And I know it's because I know my SANS regulations that I've got contracts with developments, simply because I can help them. I can quote from the SANS regulations. I sit there with the complex managers with my SANS regulations in front of me, and they are blown away. It's helped me in my business. Believe me, it's helped me. It costs money, but so what? I've made that money over and over and over during this lockdown, during this COVID time. And I understand that there are guys out there that have battled. And I sympathize with you, because I'm also just a plumber like you guys. But I promise you guys, if you've got your SANS regulations, knowledge is power, believe me. And in this case, knowledge is helping me with my work. IOPSA, I mean, what more can you say? You've got access to a lawyer, you've got access to the occupational health and safety. How many of you actually know that you can go onto the YouTube, type in IOPSA, go to the YouTube, everything you want to know is there. All these webinars, Monday, Tuesdays, Thursday webinars, they're all there, free of charge. Go and everything you want to know to help you. And if you can't find anything there, you'll find it in your SANS regulations. So really, guys, and remember that in a corporate company, you have divisional directors for stock, for logistics, for human resources. They have huge, big departments. You are a one-man show. You got to know every single thing. You're on your own here. It's a huge task. And then sales and marketing. Besides knowing all of that, you now have to go out there and obtain sales. In other words, obtain work. You've got to go and look for work. You're putting in 8 hours graft a day. You're working hard. You're running from one job to another. Now you still got to go and look for work. How do you do that? You've got to find the time. Remember, business, there's no easy way in business. It's not a bed of roses. It can be eventually. But remember, business is an unforgiving, there's no easy way to explain business. It's hard, it's rough, it's tough. It's like a cage fight out there. And you really, really have to put in the hours. Because I promise you, I've found it. If you put in the hours, you will reap the rewards. I can tell you that now. And as I said to you, during this COVID time, because of my SANS regulations that I know, it has given me work beyond my wildest dreams, purely and only because of my SANS regulations. And marketing. Back in my day, we never had social media. We never had any of that. You either printed pamphlets and you took an area and you walked down every post box and handed out, pushed a pamphlet into every post box. We never had cell phones. You had a beeper number there with a code, and then they would phone your beeper, and you would walk. It looked like a tape measure that you stuck on your belt, and it would go beep 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 beep, and you'll see, please phone so and so. Now you've got to phone a ticky box, and a ticky box that does work. We had it rough in those days. Today you've got social media. Everything is there. How many of you are on Instagram? I'm on Instagram, and I see PIRB also. And PIRB only gets 3 or 4 likes. They should be getting hundreds of likes in South Africa alone. 2 or 3 of the likes they get are from plumbers overseas. And then advertising. Unfortunately, a lot of advertising costs you money, but there are other ways that you can do it free of charge. So, guys, I think we've reached the end of today. But really, you need to understand that your business is a 24/7, 365 days a year work. When you run your own business, I know you've got families and you want to be with your families, but unfortunately, you also have your own business. And your business is what puts food on the table, sends your kids to school, pays your DSTV account, pays your bond, pays your hire purchase on your vehicles, it pays your salaries. You've got to put more time into that. Unfortunately, that is just how it is. Steve, any comments from your side?
Yeah, I think, Kurt, well done for your first session, and you're certainly back with us next week in terms of getting further in depth. And I think it's true what you say, that, you know, business is hard, you know, and it is rewarding, and there are sacrifices, but, you know, I think it's an investment in in yourself and your families. I mean, remember, if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for you. And I think we've seen it in terms of how you've expressed it, in terms of you know, putting in those hard yards. You know, I always revert back to a rugby team. You know, it's what you put in is what you're going to get out, and it's trying to be better, look for opportunities. And again, as plumbers, we hate the paperwork. I mean, it just becomes that reality is that, and I see it where people are sort of saying, well, I'm still waiting for my quotation, or I'm still waiting for an invoice. You know, we need to just keep on top of it. We need to learn from each other. And I think, you know, coming from yourself, and you're not coming across today as this motivational speaker that's been doing this forever and ever. I mean, this is your first time, you know, on air, and you know, we really do appreciate, you know, the efforts that you put in, Kurt, in terms of bringing your real life experience, you know, to the guys out and ladies out there. I think that they can all relate, and I think in next week's session, as we get a little bit more in depth in terms of you know, running the business and learning from mistakes that you've made, so that there are youngsters out there that maybe are just starting or have started and are battling. And I think it's that type of communication that's going to assist and guide. So yes, from my side, thank you very much, Kurt. I don't know if there's any other questions, Kareem. I know we've got a minute left, but yeah, that's me.
Good luck in your businesses. We all want to make a living. We all want to do well, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thanks.